Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and what an honor. Chance to be joined here by three beautiful spirits and a divine human being, kirtan leader and teacher, Durga Dasi. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
When you smile now, have you ever been able to smile like that before?
No.
Can you talk to, this is International Women's Day, and this country aside, there's a lot of women that are repressed everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And I just would like you to talk about how you've gotten on your journey, sacred journey, from a place of complete defeatism, totally defeated, to a place of total peace.
Wow. I think this journey really began for me probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I had a suicide attempt that I clearly survived. And that suicide attempt landed me in a mindfulness-based support program and support group. And I met a lot of amazing people there that I'm still very good friends with. Through that, though, I dove into the spiritual aspect of yoga. I had played around with yoga asana off and on for a while, but it really was the catalyst to my knowing that yoga was my lifeline, because the first thing that I wanted to do was really get on the mat and just at least feel my own body again. So eventually that led me to moving out of a really toxic relationship, out of a horrible abusive situation, to where I am now. And then a year after that led me to yoga teacher training, where I was introduced to Bhakti yoga and the practices of kirtan and japa meditation, where you chant the 108 rounds of mantra of choice, and listening to teachers and gurus and Krishna Das and all of these amazing practices that went along with yoga that I had no idea, reading the Bhagavad Gita and the Devi Mahatmya and the different texts, and I found so much hope and healing in all of this. But the kirtan, the kirtan really has been, it's my lifeline, even more than the asana now at this point.
This is the key, though, is that the support group only goes so far.
Right.
There is a frequency that you are operating on. I can feel it very deeply. It's a special frequency to be on, but it's unquantifiable. You can't, there's no data for it. To me, you are saved because of something that that words don't really do justice to it. And how do you try to inspire people who have basically been living in a conformist society? We are told now what to do. We are not told how to think, but what to think.
Right.
So how do you get through to people who have been sort of indoctrinated in this culture of, being told what to do?
I chant and I sing.
And talk about the impact that has on people.
Well, I specifically work with trauma-informed yoga, and I work with a lot of trauma survivors who have been so disconnected from their bodies, and it's really easy to take this group of people and spoon feed us what to think, because we're so disconnected anyway. Everything can be so overwhelming. So when I am in a relationship or a teaching relationship with an individual such as this, firstly, just getting them back into their bodies and they begin to understand that they have authority over their own selves. That's a really, really big deal in and of itself. So stepping outside of the dissociation and being like, oh my gosh, I have legs. Like really, I have some students that they haven't felt their toes in years because they're just so disconnected. So getting them
comes from trauma?
It comes from trauma.
Yeah. Interesting.
Especially if we're talking about physical trauma.
Yeah, right.
So getting people into their bodies, getting people into their breath, which to me is that it is that link to the divinity that we are. And then from there, once we give people authority over their own bodies and their own minds, that's when we can get them to start thinking for themselves and realizing that, hey, that choice, working 23 hours out of the day for somebody else doesn't actually feel good for me. I'm freaking exhausted. And they start to realize that I often will tell them when I get them into like a warrior two, like a yoga pose, right? What micro adjustments do you need to make so that you feel stable, so that you feel supported, and so that you feel comfortable in this pose? It can be challenging, but make sure there's not any pain. Where's your foundation? Feel that foundation. What micro adjustments do you need to make? And then from there, okay, so what in your life are you not feeling supported by? Where can you make those micro adjustments in your life? So using asana as a mirror, which is partly what it's for, using yoga asana, the postures, as a mirror to show us where we can take these same ideals and these same principles off the mat and into the world with us, as Sean Horn would say.
How?
I don't have any simple answers.
No, I mean, there's just a lot running through my head. Namaste is an organization that you work with here in Long Beach. Is that the trauma people that you speak of?
So Namaste Spiritual Center is a place that the three of us, actually, we all go to. We're all a part of.
Beautiful people.
And we are creating some beautiful stuff there, and I am going to begin teaching yoga there. I'm not currently teaching there. That's going to start on Thursday nights very soon. I'm right now mainly teaching at Yoga Lucian Movement here in Long Beach, and Bhakti Yoga Shala. I'm a guest teacher there, soon to be on the schedule in Santa Monica. And then private sessions, lots of private sessions.
This is important, the third eye.
Yes.
Okay, when did you, I talked to an amazing teacher of Kundalini Yoga today. We talked about the third eye, but can you explain the significance of the third eye, when it really came into your spiritual zeitgeist?
The third eye itself? I like to call
when the realization of it, when it became real. Because I know what the definition of it is.
Right. I like to call it my first eye, because I try to see through that one first. But
why is this?
Because that's the truth. You know, the Bhagavad Gita talks about how our senses kind of inform everything that we think we're perceiving. So if I see this rose and I think that it's a red rose, but you're colorblind, you might not see that red rose. Your perception of it is very different. It doesn't change the rose, but we're having two very different experiences with the rose. So with these eyes, I don't see the truth. I see a reality based on my trauma, based on my experience, based on my visual impairments or lack thereof. So what we see through what we experience through our senses isn't a true reality. It's true for us, but it's not really an accurate reality. But this is an intuitive seeing beyond the surface, seeing beyond the senses, allowing us to connect more from a heart space than a head space. So for me, I think as a kid, I was actually very in tune with it, and that got shut down somewhere. I was always the kid.
You have a memory you can point to that maybe you didn't trust yourself at the time, but that's actually was your first eye?
Yeah, I got married, and my intuition was like, do not do this.
You got married? Well,
run fast. And I did not listen. There have been a lot of instances where I've put myself in very dangerous situations where my intuition was screaming at me not to. And it's only by the grace of Ma, whom I didn't even know at that time, that I'm still here, relatively unharmed. So my intuition has always been very strong. Based mostly on trauma, I've had to learn how to shut that down. And that's one of those things that's really common for trauma survivors. So yoga allows us to, it's another one of those bridges to get a trauma survivor to trust their intuition again, because they're developing that relationship.
You know, you said something interesting to me in our radio interview about how colonialism had a detrimental impact on Hinduism. Mm-hmm. Can you go deeper on that? That to me is way beyond. I mean, I'm not book read deep into that, but can you explain how it impacted it negatively?
I can speak a little bit to it. I'm not a historian. From my understanding, the Vedic culture as a whole has always celebrated women and children, and even the class system it is spoken of in the Vedas. It's spoken of in such a way as everybody is in service to one another. So it's not like the king is way above the servant. We all have a role to fulfill in service to each other and ultimately service to Goddess, God, Source. Colonialism came in and made the class system very oppressive and made women, brought in a lot of oppression towards women and towards children. And that's when we saw a lot of things starting to shift, and this inequality and this social injustice really start to come into play because it's political power. If we have everybody playing nicely together and the world working in harmony, who can be empowered politically with that? So we see this in modern politics all the time, especially when you have a conquering civilization coming in and taking over. They have to bring in a system of oppression. They have to, or else it won't work.
But I mean, you can say, I know you're not a historian, but I mean, prior to colonialism, the caste system was much more based on person to person, human to human. It was working the way ideally we would assume in harmony, or was it, because it tainted, no doubt it tainted India the way it stands today. Right? From
my understanding.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, again, we're not...
So, right. So if you read a lot of the Vedas, so even with, like, there are still customs in India where when we have Navratri, for example, the celebration of the goddess, little girls are dressed as the goddess and worshipped as the goddess. They're brought flowers and fruit and gifts. This was initially how it was set up, to honor and to respect. And even within the class system, it wasn't abusive and it wasn't manipulative. It was, you're born to, part of your karma and also part of your dharmic duty is the class in which you're born into. It doesn't make you less than. You're still a child of God. You're still an extension of this unconditional source of love, because the Vedas are all based on bringing us back to that. Mm-hmm. That was what everything in society was originally, to my understanding, set up to get everybody home. And so there's no space for oppression in a system like that.
Durga, who is the goddess Durga? Because I transcribed a good friend of the program, Dana Saray, who's another amazing teacher of yoga, and you guys hopefully will connect at some point. And she told the story of Durga in her own way. Mm-hmm. But I want you to talk about this compassion yet fierceness that she instilled, because it comes across that she was almost relentless.
Yeah.
But I want, you are Durga. So who is Durga the goddess?
Well, I'm Durga Dasi, which means servant of Durga.
Got it. Okay, you're a servant.
And Durga Ma she's mother. And she's all compassionate and all merciful and all loving. But just like a mama bear, she will kick some ass. Tail if she has to, you know?
What does it look like? But you, as a servant, you can also kick ass too.
Yes,
right?
I can.
I would love to see that. Anyway, yes.
I bring that to my social justice work.
Right, well, you got to ring the bell sometimes. Mm-hmm. But did you choose that name, or how did that come about?
So my name actually came to me. It came to me in a meditation. I was meditating. I saw the goddess Durga, and she presented me with the name. And then I went to my teacher and was like, holy cow, this thing just happened. I don't want to culturally appropriate. I don't want to do anything that's disrespectful. Is it okay for me to use this name? And he explained to me that his Guru Maharaji had said that when you're reborn into the spiritual path, you can choose your own name if you want to. And that being said, the mother herself gave me this name. So I guess in a way I chose it, but it came through a meditation and a visualization, and then I got the blessing of my teacher, so that I felt comfortable using
it. The idea of just like, I would like you to talk about the internal strength. I mean, you tried to take your life.
Yeah.
And, the fact that you are here now and able to really express who you are is a testament. I mean, I've been on the road for 8 years finding my own voice. It's been cathartic, connecting with spiritual people, very deep, beautiful people. And I just would like you to offer some words of wisdom to those who are feeling like you did growing up in a pretty oppressive religious home, and knowing you did not fit into that and not being accepted by that. Yeah. Knowing what you know now, Speak to those who are feeling that way now.
There's a text in the Devi Mahatmya that says, "Know that you were born of the radiance of her pure intelligence and bliss." When I read that, even though I was already on this path at that point, and I was finding a lot of hope and strength in the story of Durga on the battlefield, and she's beautifully feminine but also fierce as crap. She's very, very fierce, and
she's got 8 arms.
She's got at least 8 arms. Some depictions she has like 1,008 arms.
That's unreal.
I mean, can you imagine trying to buy an outfit for that? No, it'd be impossible. Manicure? Hello. So, I was thinking that the other day. Durga gets a manicure. What would that even look like?
That's a great story. It's a short story. No, the thing is, though, that they said no man or God can take down the demons, but then all of a sudden it was the feminine, it was the divine feminine. They didn't mention that.
So there was a loophole in this boon that the demons had been granted. No man nor God, but nothing was said about the goddess, because if you read in the Devi Bhagavatam, it goes into a little more detail than the Mahatmya does. The Bhagavatam talks about how the demon was like, no woman would be able to defeat me. I don't need that. So he didn't want that clause in there because his ego was already like, no, that would never happen. So demons are running amok. There's darkness all over the world. The gods are trying to fight them and take them down, and they're not being successful. So they all come together. Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, they furrow their brows. They're just infuriated. And when they come together and merge their light together, in the center, this is one of the depictions, in the center of this beam of light coming from the 3 of them, the goddess begins to take shape. And Shiva's light forms her face. Vishnu, I believe he's the one that forms her arms. Brahma forms her feet. And then you've got Agni, who forms her 3 eyes, and all of these different deities. And it goes into detail about every anatomical part of the goddess is formed by these different devas, the different gods. And in the Veiling Brilliance, which is a retelling of the Devi Mahatmya, there's this part that's really easy to miss, apparently, in the original translation, where the gods realized that they did not form her. They realized that anything that they had was from her, that they were looking at the original source of everything that they were. So it was when the devas, who represent, the qualities that we have, our integrity, our honesty, our nobility, the things that our love, the things that we show up to with life that are good and pure and whole, when these qualities all merged together, that's when the highest self, Durga, when our highest, most loving, compassionate, knowing self showed up on the scene. Only she could take the demons down. Only she, and the demons are those thoughts and those things that keep us separate, feeling small and less than the love and the divinity that we are. So all of it is very, very beautifully symbolic. And, the battlefield is the mind. Every single day we're dealing with these bloody demons. And we can take our devas, we can take all of our good qualities and, no, I'm just going to chant affirmations and do vision boards, and those are good, keep doing them. But in the end, it's not going to defeat the I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy. It's only when we bring all of those things together and get in tune with who we really are, the light, the mother, the love that is our true nature, that we can actually start to realize that's so untrue. I am worthy. I am love. Of course I'm lovable. Love is my true nature. And that's what happened for me when I read about Durga and discovered that I'm an aspect of her and that you're an aspect of her and we're all aspects of her. That's when I came into the understanding that, yes, I belong on this planet. Yes, I am here for a purpose. And all of the thoughts and those dark, dark thoughts that want to take us down and tell us that we aren't worthy, that we don't matter, we're born of the radiance of her pure intelligence, her knowing, and her bliss. It brings her great joy that we're here on this planet right now. So when we come into that truth, that's when that light all comes together. We get to know who we actually are. That's how we step out of those really, really dark places that would dare try and kill us and take our own lives.
Do you feel responsibility to create or help create in your own world some kind of revolution of consciousness? I believe a shift in society will only come through that.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you feel that as a sacred duty of yours?
I do. And I feel like it's one heart at a time.
Before I let you go, I want you to tell the story the best you can. As the swaha we talked about, and I'm not going to do justice to it, but you were in India, and the three people that hurt you the most, you were able to come to peace.
Yes.
Can you take us through that story?
Yes. So it was really early in the morning. We were on the banks of the Ganga, Mother Ganga.
Just for the record, that's
river,
where people...
The Ganges River.
Literally, that's where people go to die.
Yes, part of the... We were up
Maybe not. No, there's another town.
That's in Varanasi, which is... The Ganga is there too, but we're up in northern India, Rishikesh, so we weren't quite at the cremation area, but yes, people do go there to die. But we were up and it's pristine and beautiful. We were in the Himalayan mountains, and Ma, every single morning she would meet me there with these beautiful, beautiful visions. I'm a very visual person, and that first eye. So we'd been working up to this point for probably about a week into the trip in India. And I knew that was the thing that was really holding me back. I lived under the umbrella of trauma. I felt like I was nothing more than my trauma, than what happened to me as a child. And so I saw the three people that were responsible for my childhood trauma. And they were sitting in front of me like a guru would sit in front of you. In India, you would sit before your guru and you wash their feet with ghee and honey and holy water, and it's a really, really sweet, sacred, kind of like in the Bible, the story where Mary is washing the feet of Jesus with her tears and drying his feet with her hair. It's
those tears came off of a gas station on me the other day. But go ahead, yeah.
So I saw them sitting in front of me, and I saw Durga Ma standing beside me, and she was holding an arati lamp. And she was ringing a bell, and she said, "You're going to perform puja, and you're going to forgive them. And it's time for you to be free from this." And so I saw myself performing puja over each one of them, washing their feet with all of the things, and forgiving them, and loving them, and bestowing gifts and grace upon them. And when I got to the last person, as soon as I dried her feet, Ma stopped. She extinguished the lamp and she stopped ringing the bell and she said, "It's finished." And I felt that cage that had been encompassing me for as long as I can remember. I felt it absolutely shatter. And I have never felt that sense of freedom ever in my life. That was my big svaha moment.
It literally fell away, and you're not haunted by it at all anymore.
I'm not. No, there are...
Maybe the wrong word to use, but I mean...
Right. I'm not haunted by it. Now, trauma, there are certain... our bodies keep the score of trauma. So there are still certain things, I still triple check to make sure my doors are locked. But I don't walk around feeling like all I am is a trauma survivor. And when I think of these people, I can think of them with love and with grace. And one of them was very, very dear to me. So being able to think of this person and think of the good times that we had is such a gift in and of itself, to be able to have that person. Because my trauma was repressed most of my life, even though I knew that something was very wrong. With this person in particular, it was repressed up until just about 2 years ago, not even, about a year ago. And it was the most heartbreaking thing I had ever been through, with coming to terms with what had happened with this person. And so being able to now think of this person with love and remember the good times and not just focus on this horrible thing that happened, that in and of itself is such a gift. And with the others as well, it's just, I'm free. Now there's other stuff that I'm working through.
Yeah, no, that in the interview, I want to be clear that you are still cultivating your true nature.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not a fully self-realized person. I'm still cultivating. The thing is that this practice has given me the tools to actually do that, to come into my true nature, and to, when I get down on myself, when I go through a heartbreak, when I feel rejected, I realize that my nature is not rejection. I'm feeling rejection. This person rejected me, that situation may have rejected me, but that's more about them than me, and I am not the embodiment of rejection. I am not unworthy of being accepted. So it's very different. Whereas before, a breakup happens, it's the end of the world, right? I'm not going to get out of bed for a couple weeks or months or whatever. and it's going to take me to a very dark place. Now I'm like, well, that sucked, and I'm going to cry about it, but I don't feel like my existence has been shattered.
Right. There's a buoyancy. You just bounce off of it.
Yes.
But yeah, so Durga, I ask you to end this beautiful conversation with some music. Could you do that with your friends?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Bless you, Durga.
Thank you. Blessings. Thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. Happy International Women's Day. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you later.